Dr. Dustin Shipman is entering his sixth year with the Big Sky School District. The superintendent earned his doctorate in education at Montana State University, as well as 2 master's degrees in educational leadership and international education from MSU and Framingham State University. He previously held the role of director at the American International School of Vilnius. He enjoys traveling and the array of outdoor activities that Montana has to offer with his 2 sons and wife. Dustin, thank you for joining us once again.
Thanks for having me. I would just want to quickly say to Dr. Cruzado, you actually robed me in 2011.
All right. So first off, Dustin, today was the first day of school. How was it?
I mean, it was great. It's what we've been waiting for since March 15th. You know, to have students back on campus, even to the limited degree that it was today. But it was really refreshing. It was great to see the parents back on campus. It was great to see students back on campus. We had a week with faculty last week that had a lot of enthusiasm around it for the moment that we had today at 8:30 when we greeted the students.
Yeah. Do you believe it'll be hard for yourself, faculty members, and students alike to grow accustomed to seeing each other with masks on as they walk the halls?
I mean, I think it's going to be challenging, but I think, you know, really, Brandon, that challenge is going to be overcome relatively easily because it's what we've all wanted. You know, all the data that we received from every survey that we sent out was kids on campus to whatever extent is safe, responsible, and beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, you've only got a small sample size being that today was day 1, but what do you believe will be the toughest challenge as you safely return students to campus?
I mean, I think it's what everybody else has already mentioned, and it's all of us coming together as a school community and as a wider community to really practice best practices, which we know what best practices are now a lot better than we did back in March, to practice those best practices so we can move to a more occupancy on campus as the year starts to unfold. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. But, you know, we have some real leaders among our student body, and that was one thing we heard over and over from our consultant. From Matrix, and Dr. Cruzado mentioned it, so did Commissioner Christian, and that's putting this in the students' hands and having them hold each other accountable and, you know, practicing those practices when they leave our campus, when they go home, when they go to their soccer practices, when they do their activities. That's going to be one of the keys to overcoming this and coming out better on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned putting it in the students' hands. I'm curious, what initial feedback did you receive from staff members and students today?
I mean, the same as what I said. Everybody was really, really enthusiastic. You know, again, thinking we haven't seen the students on our campus for, you know, almost 5 months. So there was a lot of excitement around being back on campus. So everybody was excited. We had a debrief at the end of the day and another task force meeting, and everything that came out was enthusiasm.
That's great to hear. On the flip side of that coin, you know, obviously there's the excitement, but I'm curious, what will be the course of action if a student or staff member were to become ill and they had been on campus?
Yeah, again, I think, you know, and just to reiterate, working with the Gallatin County Health Department. So we've been working very closely. The superintendents from Gallatin County meet with the Gallatin County Health Department weekly, and we've been meeting weekly for upwards of the last 6 or 7 weeks. And so we feel very confident in their abilities to work their system for contact tracing, for communication, for all of those things. And, you know, certainly we'll be there to offer and lend any support or anything else that we possibly can.
Yeah. I know it's still the early opening, but how does the Big Sky School District currently plan to handle meal services?
So we started meal services today. The biggest changes really are, you know, how parents are going to sign up for meal services. We're asking for a few different things just so it's more predictable. And then, you know, students are going to, the lunches are the meals are being delivered to the rooms, or delivered to certain wings of the building where student helpers are then helping to deliver those meals and get them in the hands of the students who have requested one. So those are the biggest changes. Right now, we're still continuing our farm to school program. We're still continuing to serve high quality meals day in and day out, which was something, that we were extremely proud of through the school shutdown too, was, we were serving upwards of 60 to 80 meals a day to our students. Some of those, vast majority of those delivered right to their doors.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned parents and the meal services and trying to streamline the process. But I'm curious, how can parents assist with the cleaning and sanitization protocols that the school has adopted to best keep their children safe?
I think it's just really supporting the protocols that we have in place, reminding kids and teaching those things at home too, teaching what good hand washing looks like, reminding their students when they drop them off, because at this particular point, we're not allowing parents into the building, only by, via the office for special occasions or special reasons, but really encouraging the kids, when they drop them off, don't forget to sanitize your hands. Don't forget to put your mask on, your face covering on when you enter the school building. And then again at home, just reinforcing the things that we're doing at school, because that's a safe and responsible home behavior as well.
Yeah. Well, obviously everyone wants to be back in person in some form or fashion, but if BSSD had to adopt an entirely virtual learning environment once again, at any point during the school year, would there be any significant differences in regard to what students experienced as opposed to the spring?
Yeah, we think that we learned a lot. I'll just say that. And I actually think we launched probably one of the better virtual environments or distance and virtual learning environments in the state of Montana. However, we did learn a lot. The biggest difference is going to be, because we're not just preparing Brandon for just in case the entire school has to close down. We're preparing for the kid or the teacher or group of kids who may have to quarantine for 14 days. We still want those students and those teachers, to the extent they can be, to be engaged with their learning, with the teaching and learning that's going on. So the biggest thing that we've done is technology upgrades to lend itself to more synchronous learning. So we have a high ability now to broadcast out and a high ability to broadcast back in. With that, we've also worked with the staff to really distill down, the standards and really hone in on the learning process and what's really important about coming out of a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, referring to technology, can you elaborate a little more? You discussed the broadcast capabilities, but any other technology that the school has implemented this year?
Really it's the audio and visual systems that are now in every teaching space in the district. And that was the biggest challenge that we had before. And then also so we have all the technology there and we have the ability to have, essentially if we needed to, a teacher teaching to an empty classroom, but really teaching to a full classroom, outside of the bricks and mortar. So the biggest tech upgrades we made were those two things, the visual and audio capabilities. And then we were in great shape technology-wise before anyway. But the other thing that we've done, we've adjusted our policy so now students can bring their own device from grade 6 to 12. That used to be high school only. And we've gone one-to-one take-home. We were always one-to-one, but one-to-one take-home all the way down to kindergarten.
Wow, that's really cool. I touched on it earlier with Nettie, but referring to the recent directive from Governor Bullock that allows students to remove their masks if social distancing is possible and strictly enforced, has BSSD discussed this option? And if not, is it on the agenda for further discussion at any upcoming school board meetings?
Not at any upcoming school board meetings, but it certainly has been talked about amongst the task force, and it will continue to be talked about amongst the task force. I mean, one of the things why, we went to an every other day schedule, there's a few things at play there. So every other day, 50% of the students are going to be on campus, 50% will be learning in the virtual environment. One of the big things was, our enrollment really ebbed and flowed over the summer, what we were expecting, and we still don't have a solid number. So that's 6 foot. So we had a consultation from Matrix Medical, who came in and really walked us through the facility and really talked us through those things. And, you know, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish social distancing in all of our teaching spaces um, and do it safely. So that's why we've made the choice now. We're social distance because we know social distancing and a face covering, those two things in combination are, you know, right on the front lines of the safest behavior that you can exhibit in your school. So that's where we're at right now. You know, we didn't have the facility for it.
Yeah. You mentioned enrollment, being that this was the first day. Did you have a lot of unexpected attendees, so to speak, I guess?
We had a few unanticipated attendees, and we also had, you know, just in today, five paperwork packets go out. So we're still getting students enrolling. You know, today we're at 425, and last year we were at 370 at this point, 374 or something. So, you know, well over 10%, closer to 15%. We think we'll probably level out right around 430 K-12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, now I'd like to shift gears just for a second. Are there any updates that you can provide at this time on the school expansion project that was funded by the levy that was recently passed?
Oh, thanks for giving me something really great to talk about. Yeah, so the architects are working through some initial design phases where the geotech analysis is going to start next week. So we'll be able to probably have some designs out to community for feedback. We're hoping in November, some real design that the community will be able to see. The housing project is, I don't know if anybody's been by that lately. The second unit has the walls up, has the trusses up, and is ready for shingles.
That's great news. And lastly, I hope that I've been able to cover many questions that community members and parents may have this evening, but I understand there's an email address that people can submit questions for the school district to. What is that email address?
That email address, Brandon, is backtoschoolsafely@bssd72.org.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Dr. Shipman. That's all I had, but I would like to toss it over to Joe and see if he has any follow-ups or any questions from the audience.
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Dustin, very much for your time today. You know, something that I continue to think about is how distracting all this has got to be for students learning how to learn in a new way, right? You know, I got to think it's hard for them to concentrate. I mean, it's early days yet. It's day one, so we can't get ahead of ourselves here. But, you know, I was curious, are there any special training that you guys are giving to, you know, guidance counselors who may get questions surrounding, you know, issues about distraction and difficulty concentrating?
Yeah, so I mean, we feel like our guidance counselors are quite competent, and I know they participated in some, you know, COVID related and new ways of learning workshops over the summer. Mm-hmm. But so this week we've had a graduated start where we have just very small cohorts of students into the school, and this is the week where we're really going to work with the students, you know, because when we say distraction, you know, I mean, face coverings are a distraction. Washing your hands all the time is a distraction. Using the public restroom only in particular blocks of time, that can lead to a distracted learning environment. So this is the week where we're really going to work in small groups with students to really, I don't want to use, to teach them that these are the ways we're going to interact now on our campus. And then certainly we'll be keeping a very, very close eye on students and how they're behaving in the environment and how they're reacting to the environment, and respond to those as, you know, as needed and as a priority. Because, you know, one thing, and I think Dr. Cruzado mentioned it too, you know, the mental and emotional and social well-being of the students is extremely, extremely important. And that was one thing that came out of last spring, the governor's closure, was there's a lot of those that just happen organically, that students become healthy in all of those areas just through being social.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely hear you there, and I'm sure it's tough as well on you and your faculty and your staff. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I know is a heavy lift for you all this summer and as you go forward through the semester, and we really appreciate everything you guys are doing for our young students in the community. So thanks again for your time, Dustin.
Thanks for having me.